Today, Ukrainians are experiencing a live terrorism from Russia. And this is unbelievable that for today, none of those existed organizations with a mission to maintain peace can't even do much. Well, this is main news for last week at Yakovlev Twins channel. Well, dictator Putin, the president of Russian Terroristic Federation, is the fourth head of state to have an arrest warrant issued by the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Yeah, most of his colleagues suffered an enviable fate. The chief prosecutor of the Ministry of Internal Affairs in The Hague noted that the warrant issued for the Putin's arrest is for life. And of course, Putin's propagandists and minions began to foam at the mouth and declare that this court, this order, have no significance for Russia. But wait, what is it? Oh my god. It turns out that the internet is a little that remembers everything. Just look at this video.
Для меня, как воспитанника российской школы права, большая честь выступать в главном судебном органе Организации Объединенных Наций. Учреждение постоянной палаты третейского суда.
Here, Putin, in 2005, in The Hague, and yeah, just listen to him, how he's seen about the legitimacy of the Hague Court. And Putin spoke at the European Nation International Court of Justice in The Hague, and he spoke about the supremacy of international law and called The Hague the capital of justice. Meanwhile, the officer of the General Prosecutor in Ukraine reports a representative office of the International Criminal Court will be opened in Ukraine. The agreement was signed in The Hague by the General Prosecutor. During March 2022, the previously announced visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to Russia took place. Of course, be sure that Xi Jinping is playing with fire, especially after Putin's arrest warrant, because this is actually recognition of Putin as a criminal at the international level. Putin must have become very close to the Chinese president, begging for help with weapons. Of course, in order to continue killing peaceful civilians in neighboring countries. The pictures of Xi Jinping and terrorist Putin together in Moscow will send a clear message. Russia and China remain close partners. The main statements of the Russian dictator during the informal meeting was: Russia is jealous of China's development. Russia and China has many common tasks and goals. Russia has carefully studied the Chinese plan for a peaceful settlement in Ukraine. And at this point, I should note that the United States Secretary of State commented that Chinese peace plan could be a more could be a stalling tactic to help the occupiers. This will allow Putin to rest and reshuffle his troops to resume the war at a more favorable time. Xi Jinping in turn said, China attaches great importance to relations with Russia, as they have a historical logic. Just hold this point in your mind. Then he said that he is confident that the Russians will support Putin in next year's election. But everyone actually already knows that in China, in books and atlases, some part of Russia, if you know history, those territories of Russia that Russia in barbarian way and illegally take away from China, this part of Russia in book and atlases in China is written with historical Chinese names, almost like a Chinese territory. And doesn't it mean that China is starting to dictate the rules to Putin and decide who will be in power? Russians maybe have a new master? Because we know that Russians are slaves and they need someone to serve. But well, it's just my thoughts. Well, according to main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine, Currently, there are no facts of China's supply of weapons to Russia, but it is known that almost 70 Chinese exporters sold 26 different brands of Chinese drones to the Russian Federation after the start of the war. Energy. Energy is no longer a priority. Russia has changed its missiles attack tactic. Since winter has already ended and the Russians haven't managed to destroy the Ukrainian energy system, Russians will now slightly reorient the direction of the strike. And unfortunately, those can be military facilities, concentration of our troops, or maybe a logistics system of our groups. But so far, Russian terrorists are only fighting civilians. In addition to the constant shelling of the frontline cities like Bakhmut and Avdiivka, or cities in Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, where even prohibited phosphorus bombs are used, on March 22, Russians bombarded all of Ukraine with missiles and drones at night and in the morning. Just in Kiev region, they hit a hostel, and unfortunately, at least 8 people were killed. In Zaporizhia, Russian rockets hit residential buildings, and from the launch to the hit, just a few seconds, because Russians hit Zaporizhia with rocket artillery. 34 victims, among them are children. And I wonder what those cynical Russian bastards will be able to talk about. That there was what? Tank factory? Or maybe there were NATO people there? What? Lying fucking bastards. Maybe about good interesting news. Now, I suggest you just look at our new Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine, Oksen Lisovoy. A really interesting, promising person. Well, his father is well-known Ukrainian dissident who fought against the Soviet Union government. Unfortunately, he was arrested and sent to Siberia for that. His mother helped the families of political prisoners who became victims of Soviet Union. And in those years, she was even fired from her job just because she brought flowers at the Shevchenko monument. Lisovoy managed a small academy of science in Ukraine, and during his leadership, the transparency system of the protection of scientific works was introduced. And UNESCO gave to the small Academy of Science, run by Oksen, the status of a center of scientific education of the second category. Also, Oksen is the author of more than 200 scientific publications. And furthermore, Oksen Lisovoy, at the beginning of war started by Russia against Ukraine, went to the front. Yeah, Oksen went to the front line for defend our country. And you know, when I heard such a history of real person, I believe strongly and more that Ukrainians are really unbelievable, strong, free people. And we defend our land. And of course, we will win. It was the main for last week. Glory to Ukraine, to our partners and defenders. Thank you for staying with us at Yakovlev channel. Please share our video and subscribe on our Instagrams.